Good morning, crime community. I'm here to finish out reading The Search by Jess Bravin, Squeaky. It's the conclusion to the chapter, The Search. Michael Davies had been driving home from school when he heard a report of the Ford incident on the radio. Stopping at the corner grocery store, he came upon a squad of FBI agents asking passerbys if they knew Lynette Frome. When Davies mentioned his acquaintance with Lynn, agents were immediately interested. They accompanied him home. They were querying him about his relationship with the woman of P Street. Davis was forthcoming except on one point. He said nothing about the letter writing project he had been helping with. At about 7:30, Davis walked over to P Street and saw Sandy and Heather amid the crowd outside. Sandy smiled and grabbed Davis's arm. "I'm glad you're here," she said, apparently having forgiven him for the failing she had enumerated the night before. Davies, uncomfortable, decided to return home until the crowd dissipated. Morris Wilmarth had been working at the tomato juice cannery when word of the events of Capitol Park began to filter through. Two overheard two co-workers speculated on the aftermath of the president's assassination in Sacramento. Wilmar scoffed. "I don't think anyone's going to try to kill the president here in Sacramento," he said. "But someone just did," came a reply. "It was a girl, somehow connected to the Manson family." Wilmarth immediately knew who it was and shivered. He had stopped by P Street the night before and caught the drift of the pained, angry conversations. When Wilmarth got off work, he immediately cashed his paycheck and had the first of many beers he would down that day. What had Lynn done? The young man had shattered. At 9:30 p.m., Wilmarth, by now in tears, went with Davies to check on their friends. Two were heartily discussing the day's events as they approached the scene. Still complete chaos with Wilmarth, with police in the basement and reporters hovering everywhere for quotes. Heather would later say that Wilmarth was staggering drunk and that he had helped as he walked up the stairs. Sandy was irritated at what she saw as the men's juvenile behavior. "Fellows," she told them, "you should be brothers. This is no time for bickering. A woman just gave her life for the balance of the earth." When Wilmarth and Davies wouldn't stop, she sternly commanded, "Now cut that out." Wilmarth turned to Sandy. Why, he asked, had Lynn committed such a futile, stupid act? Didn't she realize how far it would set back the cause they all believed in? She couldn't possibly accomplish as much incarcerated as she could being out. She had been producing constantly to no avail, Sandra retorted. All Lynn's peaceful work, all of her efforts had persuasion simply didn't do any good. But Wilmarth wasn't even listening. He kept crying, muttering to himself. Why would she do it? Why? Sandy grew impatient. "Get a hold of yourself," she told him. "She's my dearest friend, and you're reacting 10,000 times more than I am." As the authorities began to wrap up their search, Sandra decided that the men should take a walk. The evening air was still moist, and the four headed down P Street to 16th, then over toward the Capitol. Sandra made sure to circle the block, carefully scouting to see if anybody was still watching her house. The group eventually returned to P Street, and Wilmarth carried Lynn's belongings from her car. With the window smashed, it wouldn't be safe to leave them there overnight, up to the apartment. While they were out, they missed a television program that would have fascinated Lynn. According to UPI, CBS's News, The Guns of Autumn examined the American hunting culture using blood-curdling living color to document the slaughter of wildlife by men and women who do not so much hunt animals as execute them. Because the news report depicted the killing of bears, black bear, birds, deer, buffalo, and exotic animals, the network advised parental discretion. At about 10:30, Lynn's friends reconvened at the P Street kitchen. Wilmar sat gloomily while Davis examined the inventory list left by the FBI. and Sandy and Heather inspected the apartment to see what was missing. Heather went downstairs to check her own room and soon returned carrying a box. Look, Blue, she said to Sandra, they forgot to take these. They didn't take these. The box was filled with pink envelopes, nearly 200 of them. Their contents were similar to those seized by the FBI. Warnings from the International People's Court of Retribution. Sandra seemed puzzled. I wonder why they didn't take these, she said. Shall I mail them? Shall we mail them, Heather? What should we do with them? It would be necessary to mail them, the woman decided, because the FBI could return at any moment. If possible, the letters should be sent to somewhere other than Sacramento. Sandra thought it best if they were postmarked in the Bay Area. Unfortunately, said she now would be too busy to perform the errand herself. Would Davies be willing to drive to San Francisco tomorrow and mail the letters? Davies agreed. I got some friends in Berkeley. I'll go see them, he said. I could use a vacation. The woman handed Davies 2 manila envelopes full of pink letters, along with another envelope containing some of the address lists of the FBI had overlooked. Davies was to keep the list in his apartment in case authorities came back to pick up what they missed. When Sandy gave Davies $5 to pay for his gas. Wilmarth went downstairs to his apartment and fell asleep. Davies returned home and looked at the letters. His suspicions about the true purpose of the woman's activities had been building for weeks, and Lynn's sensational actions in Capitol Park only heightened them. He decided to open one of the letters. After reading it, he resolved to call the FBI. That's going to be the end of that chapter. Let's go on to the next chapter called Aftermath. That's not a name of a Stones album either. So it's about President Ford and Lynette and the aftermath of what's going to happen. So if you think there's any truth here, how come there's an album named Aftermath? I don't know. I can't figure it out. So if there's any truth and think there's any truth going on here, please like and subscribe and have a great day. Thank you.